Good morning, everybody. Mike Wright, Edge Home Finance, coming to you on another happy hump day. I appreciate y'all being here. More importantly, I appreciate my great buddy, Nick Dreher from Keller Williams, Roseville, team lead and mentor, and I don't know what else I can throw in there, man, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
I appreciate having me back, and I appreciate the superlatives of my introduction.
That's right. A second time.
A second
Realtor
time.
of the week.
Yeah.
I like it.
We're back to have good conversation today.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So Nick and I have gone back a long ways. I mean, he was on about a year ago. And, it's so cool to be able to sit and learn. You're managing how many people now?
180 on a daily basis.
Only 180,
Yeah.
And there's never questions, problems. We're going to touch base, and I know you guys may be tired about hearing about it, but the whole settlement deal, we're going to touch base on some of that. But, Nick, how do you like this, transitioning into this team lead role?
So, I think being in leadership is oftentimes you have to give something up to do it, right? And you what you're going to give up is you're going to give up the me-go and you're going to adopt the we-go. The idea that in most agents' businesses, they should be and are focusing on their own growth, their own systems, their own client experience. And for me, I get to help 180 people focus on growth and professionalism and the client experience.
Dude, I love that. Me go versus we go.
Yeah,
That's solid.
It's one of those bumper sticker sayings, right? That when you really boil it down to the things that we do as leadership or as team leaders or managers, broker managers, the conversation that we end up coming to a lot, specifically as it relates to the me go, we go. Real estate has a tendency to be very hyper focused on the individual, but what we find that most agents experience the most success and happiness in what they do in a we go environment where they don't feel quite as alone, which is exactly what gets us back to this conversation about the settlement and about what is next for real estate agents, for our industry, and for the consumer.
Yeah, well, and it'll be interesting. Obviously, we got till June.
Yeah.
And we will dive into this now since you brought it up. But crazy, you know what I mean? And it's we went through it with Tread in the mortgage world, and man, it felt like the world was falling apart. God, we're going to have to do 45, 60-day, 90-day closings because, lo and behold, here we are. We can do a deal in 2 or 3 weeks and get this thing ripped down and closed, right? So leading that in, how has been the transition? Now, it's been a couple weeks. Obviously, we're posting this first week of April. It's been 2-3 weeks. What's been the feedback? There's tons of YouTube stuff on it.
And my feeling is for you, Mike, and for the listeners, the viewers, for the real estate professionals in Minnesota, let's address what we know right now. Minnesota has been slightly insulated or incredibly insulated as one of only 13 states in the country that had already put in place agency representation as the precursor to any conversation you're having about real estate. How do I represent you?
Yep.
Here's what it looks like. If you want me to represent you in this way, we have to sign a document, a buyer's representation agreement, a seller representation agreement. That representation agreement in Minnesota has long held the compensation disclosure. So it's also giving the buyers an opportunity to understand how this is working. So I think because of that, we are already at an advantage. The conversation is going to be now, however, is what is the consumer going to ask? Are they going to come out in droves? I have to imagine, you brought up TRID earlier, Mike, and I think it's a perfect comparison. We thought the world was going to absolutely implode. And guess what? It didn't.
Right.
And so I think that right now, I don't want to be glib in my response. Some people are saying it's business as usual. If you think for an instance that this is business as usual, I think you're missing an opportunity to significantly increase the value proposition you bring to the table as an agent.
Yes.
If you don't right now and you're, oh, this is business as usual, there's nothing to worry about, then I don't see how you're going to use this as an opportunity to grow and develop more professionally. So let's go back to TRID, Mike. When you and I when we went through this, 15 years ago,
Yep.
there were people in our industry that maybe shouldn't have been, and maybe their departure was a really good blessing for people like you,
Yep.
who are intentional in your relationships. You are focused on your client experience. You're focused on making sure you get it right every time. That means the consumer is better served by what happened, even though we had to go through it. And you and I could both argue that there's, what we're experiencing today as a result of TRID is maybe another disclosure or two. Really.
Yeah.
But the bad actors saw this as an opportunity to say, I just don't want to do this. It's going to be too problematic. But you stuck with it. You did the activities. You continue to build relationships. And here you are today. So, guys, if you don't need to use me, you can use Mike as an example.
Yeah, right. I think that education is so key, right? Because I think there's so much fear out there.
Mm-hmm.
But, to be honest with you, I see a number of these different chat sites as well. And I'm not totally sure if the impact of this settlement has truly been levied to some of these agents that are still talking about commissions and openly discussing. And I'm like, guys, stop this, because my concern is if they keep hearing this, they're going to reject this settlement and make it harder on these companies. What do you think that's even?
Yeah, Mike, I think that's super pertinent. Who you're getting your information from matters. The information you're getting from them matters as well. But go to your broker. So if listen, we appreciate you tuning into this, and I think what Mike and I are doing today is covering the impact.
Yeah.
Not necessarily this is what I think you should do as it relates to pricing, as it relates to commission, as it relates to your contract with your client and your relationship with your brokerage. So my question to you is the listener, the viewer, don't go online and find somebody on one of these agent sites.
Yep.
Go to your broker for this one.
Yeah.
And if your broker isn't answering the question you need, start with the state association. I think that they've done an incredible job. John at the state association gave a 30-minute, 40-minute session yesterday that was as good as anything I've seen from any of the national outlets, but with a more focused approach to what we're going to see. So what are we going to see? We're going to see forms changes. The Minnesota State, Minnesota Realtors is already working on this. So the agents over there, John Kopecki, they're already working on this. And so that feel good about being in Minnesota, feel good about your relationship with our local and state associations. NAR, for many of our agents, has had a profound impact on their business that they'll never know.
Correct.
But right now, the question is, has NAR had the same impact on a local level? And the answer probably more than likely is no. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. NAR and what the establishment of the Code of Ethics and the local association's consistent advocacy here in Minnesota for our agents, for private property rights, you guys, it's unmatched. It's unmatched, and it's well worth the amount of money you pay for it. The question now, I suppose, as it relates to what we've done as an industry or not done is, are you getting involved with your local association? Are you getting involved with the state association? Are you sitting on ethics committees? We have to give back a little bit to our business right now so that we can raise the professionalism, much like you guys had to do after the collapse in '08.
And I think my great friend and mentor in this business, Tom Hollis, is part of AIM, and that is a company, they're constantly lobbying for our business.
Yes.
You have to get involved. I truly look at this thing as a phenomenal deal. I mean, is it going to modify some things? Are you going to have to get your buyer value defined? Of course you are. And I think that's critical because that's needed. Your listing presentation, those things are going to be needed.
Well, let's backtrack a little
Yep.
bit. Let's talk about value. So the in addition to settlement and lawsuit and commission, the other buzzword right now is value. And so here's the question that I'm posing to my agents and agents I'm meeting with and agents that I'm masterminding with is, we've been talking about value a long time. And so if you can't articulate your message in 7 seconds, the consumer is going to know this. They're going to feel this. And it's going to start with that articulation. Why should I use you? Because I'm really good at what I do and I like you. And you like me and you followed on some of my TikToks or something like that, right? I mean, again, there are a lot of agents that do social media well, and some of those also do negotiations and also do representation and also do client experience well. But not everybody in that space does that. So I think you go back, and I might have mentioned this the last time I was on. You go back, and this was before any of this, right, Mike?
Correct.
So go back to a book called Creating Magic by Lee Cockrell. It's an older book. He used to be the head for Disney parks. How are you over managing the experience that your clients are getting on either side of the transaction? Stop for a minute and don't identify what you think is value or how you would create value. What do you do today that would make you stand out from your competition? And this is going to be a little bit sensational.
Yeah.
But what do you make an hour as a real estate agent? Now, there's a significant opportunity in there. Not everybody is able to accomplish this. But hear me out. Let's assume that the average real estate agent in the average transaction with the average buyer, you spend 20 hours with them through showing homes, identifying what their offer would look like, submitting the offer, negotiating the offer, and eventually getting the deal closed. Let's use 20 hours as a placeholder there. The average commission in the Twin Cities right now, the average side commission, this is not percentage, this is the number that we average have been receiving as factual numbers, is a little over $10,000 right now per side. If you divide that by 20, you're at about $500 an hour.
Not a bad gig.
Now let's talk about that though, right?
Right.
If I go to law school, I have to go to 3 to 5 years of additional school. And that means I'm in school from somewhere between 7 and 10 years, right? Yep. And it is very costly to get and you have to pass the bar exam, which is not simple. And so as an attorney, and I'm not saying attorneys are perfect, but I'm saying they can identify their value through experience garnered through that education, right?
Yep.
Doctors, a surgeon makes anywhere between $500 and $800 an hour, right? So for that amount of money, are you worth it? Are they worth it? And I'm not saying you're not. I'm saying you know whether or not you're worth that. And many of you have met with me, or I've met with you, and we've had conversations, and you can't believe that you're worth that. So if you can't believe you're worth it, you can't articulate it, how do you expect the consumer not to go, wait a minute, what am I paying for? When in fact, Mike, I really truthfully believe this, and I said this before here. I think that I have been in this industry long enough, and the experience I've had with 99% of the people has been really positive,
good,
and gregarious and affable. However, not many of that 99% of our business is still able to effectively compel me with their message as to why I should use them or make them my real estate resource of choice. So that's the question that I think we really have to ask or answer now, which is, yes, value is important, but just like every other buzzword, what are you doing to identify, develop, and articulate that value that you can do every single time again and again and again, so that it becomes similar to that of a doctor, an attorney, a CPA, other professionals that service people in a way that is individually driven compensation models and not this overarching idea of a 6%.
I think that probably is the pinnacle of this agreement, right? And I think it's important for all you guys. I use an acronym CARE, creating a referable experience. How do you create how do you ask for a referral even prior to the closing, right? What are you doing to do that? And I think that those messages that Nick shared are, God, they're just so critical, because I think that I open doors. I'll just get you into a house, I'll show you. I don't even want anything signed by you. I'll just show you houses. And what ends up happening, they love a house after you've shown them 20 homes. Then they call their family member and say, oh, God, can you rate this up for 1%? And lo and behold, everyone's all pissed. And the industry as a whole has taken a hit. And so I love this because I think it amps up your industry, it amps up the mortgage business, because we need to be able to serve your clients, because you're the ones that are referring people.
We've been saying this, I've been saying this a lot, and I can't take credit for all of it, but we're moving now from functionary to fiduciary, right? So functionaries open doors.
Yep.
And functionaries send out, automated lists of homes coming onto the market. Again, those are a part of the job. But if that is your value proposition, the consumer now is going to be more aware whether or not you want that, or whether or not we can see what it's going to mean. They are going to be more aware of what they should be expecting from this conversation, from this transaction, from your service. So I think it's important for you to understand what it means to be a fiduciary. So one of the things for the older people that are out there that are watching this, you remember this as LC Dora. And for our newer agent, they now call it Old Car. I don't know what their obsession is with old people, but here I am. But the idea is if you took those, if you broke those out as the requirement of what the state sees as the fiduciary responsibility in your life and in your job and in your profession, and you started with that, and you built your value proposition around those mandated requirements of representing somebody in a real estate transaction. If you start there and you get really good at that, you get to go to a place with your consumer where, Mike, I'll say this about me. I spent the first half of my career really focused on trying to make people like me.
Yeah, of course.
And as much as I still have a tendency to want to move in that direction, the truth is I would rather be useful to people than likable. Yep. And the usefulness is more referable than likability. And so you be useful to people. With real estate agents, it's not about your car, it's not about your watch, it's not about your shoes. It's about your usefulness and resourcefulness, and those are things that any of these agents can do and focus on and really grow.
Honesty too.
Honesty,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've told me this, and I thought this was the greatest saying ever: is that a good agent will tell you what you want to hear. A great agent will tell you the truth. And we're dealing with that more than ever, the housing market with listings, et cetera. But Nick the message is just spot on, man. I appreciate you.
So I'd leave it with this: is if you're going on to the keyboard and on the or your phone and you're commenting and you're trolling some of these places, or you're trolling NAR for failing us, or your brokerage for failing, here's what I would say. If you're going to be in this business long term, get involved in something more than just you and just your dollar. Get involved with people who are doing what they can to have an impact and advocacy in what's happening right now, what's happening at our brokerages, what's happening at the association, and what's happening in the transaction. Get involved, get knowledgeable. This is an easy time for you to bypass everybody who isn't going to take this message. And you know who you are, because a lot of you are already doing this. And you're finding success and you're moving through adversity. So I just think that is ultimately, it's not just value. What are you going to do? What are you going to implement? And how are you the resource of choice for your customer? That's where you guys have to start today. Don't talk about the things we don't know about the lawsuit, because we don't yet. And we might not until a month, 60 days, 90 days. But what I can tell you today that you know is Service is always going to have a value. You're not going to be out of a job. You're not going to be out of an income opportunity, but your income might be compressed without your willingness to grow and develop a succinct value proposition that is unique to you.
That's if you don't listen to that, make some notes from that. You're missing the boat, because I think that the reason why we're in this, and the mortgage world with the subprime ran into this freaking garbage. It was not about the consumer; it was about a paycheck. You have to have that mindset 100% switched, where it's a client first business. You guys, you know this. This is where we get referrals. They trust you. They're spending $200,000, $300,000, $800,000 with your expertise. You all have value. You got to know it. I appreciate that. That advice is solid, buddy.
And I think one more thing is, be careful who you're in business with, whether it's your loan officer referral partner, whether it's scratch that, we can't say partner, your loan officer referral affiliate. The language is weird, but again, this goes back to you doing this podcast week after week after week after week. The amount of effort you've put into this. Be careful about who you're in business with, and ask yourself the same question the consumer is asking you. What value do you bring to my business, and what does that convey to my client experience? The client experience isn't just about you; it's about the team that you put together,
yes,
and their willingness to act in the same passion, with the same passion, and with the same resourcefulness and consistency that you're going to do it. Expect that from your partners, and ask now. Mike, what is your value, right? Ask them to articulate it, so that when you're having a conversation to refer Mike, you can articulate the reason that he's going to articulate. Together, you're going to have an experience with the consumer that makes them feel safe, and that they can make a decision without the telltale signs of a convincing, and you're going to compel them to want to use you because you're good at what you do. You're great at communicating, and you've effectively listened to 50 plus realtors in the last year.
And it's so cool. I learned from you guys. But what I've learned from you is the value, whether you can use partnership or not, I don't know. But it's a team.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard board of directors.
Yep.
I've heard teammates, because we are. You guys, if I irritate one of your clients, there goes your reputation, there goes your commission, there goes the client being dissatisfied, which is the most important thing, period.
Well, and if we don't help them understand things that are really basic, is that, Mike, you're my A team, and Mike, and so I'm having a conversation with the consumer. Mike's a part of my A team, and the reason Mike's a part of my A team is because Mike comes through. He's earned the spot on my team because he's good to the consumer. He communicates well. His message, the rates, the programs, everybody has those. Yes. What Mike brings to the table is this. And so when somebody says to me, "Well, I could use my sister-in-law's cousin from her best friend," that guy might be fantastic. I don't know. And in this case, I'm not sure that I'm willing to put the success of this transaction on a friend of a friend of a friend.
Yes.
I know I can trust that Mike and his team are going to get it done. And I know that because of experience. Now, there are always going to be something that comes up in our business, right? There's
of course,
for you to have to be, or for the title company, or for someone along to have to be the scapegoat for what is naturally. This is not simple. There are moving parts to this, and so there's a question there that is, you can't guarantee that every single time it's going to be as smooth as butter. You can't.
Of course not.
What I can tell you is, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be straightforward. I'm going to talk to you, communicate with you, and we're going to fix it.
Yes.
That's the key. So if a loan officer out there tells me that they're always 100% on, if anybody does, I would argue they're not. Ask them the questions to get past the superlatives to a point where you can determine whether or not this is going to be a good partnership. And at that moment, stop meeting with 100 million other service providers. Focus on the relationship so that you can go back to serving the consumer with somebody that you know, like, and trust, and that is referable. And then that person refers you, and then the title company is referring you, and the inspectors are referring you. Because that's it. Because now you're connected, and you have as much invested in them as they do you, as opposed to where some of the ways we've been doing business the last few years, it didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
There wasn't as much of an investment in our relationship. It was more of, well, you could do this for me, Mike, or you could pay for this, or you can bring in this, instead of like, no, Mike's value isn't in bringing in subs. Mike's value is in making sure that the consumer feels comfortable and feels heard. And that their concerns have been addressed, and that their expectations have been established and met. And so that's the thing that is, we go back to the reality of this outcome. Get in better relationships with everyone in your business, and the consumer will benefit from that.
And I think we'll wrap up some of this too, because I think that if you have listened to this podcast today, you guys, mentors like this are so critical, because I know Nick he's got buddies all over the country. He's going to expos, he's going to KW training. You know, all your companies have these trainings.
Yes.
You have to learn, you have to learn, you have to learn. Are we going to change? Of course, but that's okay. Just know your value and feed off people that are like this man.
Focus on the things that you know that you can control, the things that you can't. Find mentors to help you understand and bring context to them. And I'm grateful that I get to be in a position, Mike, where I get to hear from agents, I get to hear from brokers, I get to hear from affiliate partners, I get to hear from tech people around the country as to what they're experiencing. But the truth is, it really does come back to, get your advice from somebody that you know, like, and trust, who has a vested interest in you.
Yep.
And everybody else, keep asking questions until you feel comfortable with who they are and what they represent, and is that in alignment with you. And the next change in our business will be easier for you. It'll flow, and your business will start to flow, because you have to focus on what? You don't have to focus on paying the copier bill or
Right.
Focus on what you have to focus on. Focus on the client experience and the people you're meeting. Right now, they're looking for you to provide context and clarity. And if you can do that, you will be the real estate agent of choice far into the future.
Here, the other 2 cents is the media's. I'll leave the media with that term itself, right? I'll be fair, but the public doesn't know. You guys call your people. This gives you the greatest reason in the world to reiterate your value, to remind them why they know, like, and trust you, and they're okay with you, right? You just closed amazing deals with them. But educate them on this process, because they don't know. I mean, I have people calling saying, well, do I have to pay a realtor? I heard they don't have to get paid commissions, you know? I'm like, no, that can't be farther from the truth, right? So it's our responsibility, mortgage and real estate, to educate these people. So
let's leave them with this. If the voice in your customer's head is the New York Times article that said that property values are going to go down because this is going to be cheaper, they're misleading you. If they say that 6% is gone, 6% was never here. 6% was never, there was never been a standard in our industry. And so those things are gone in something that we should be addressing. Let's really address what is the most valuable for them right now. Get them, what are they hearing? If they're only hearing from the media, they think you are horrible at what you do.
Yep.
If you're focused on the consumer experience, if you are reaching out to them, they won't listen to the news, because they know that their real estate information resource of choice is you. It's not Care 11, it's not CNN, it's not the New York Times. If you allow them to do it, then you probably are going to be looking for something else to do.
No, and I agree. And I think, Nick, I appreciate you so much. I think that the key to this thing is always they know, like, and trust you. End every conversation by, who do you know? Right?
That's it.
I get goofy with that, right? But it's critical. I mean, the most successful people, you got to ask, right?
Yes.
Nick, you are my man. This is why I love having you here. I appreciate you as the Realtor of the Week. I know you're the Realtor of the Week your manager of the week, team lead of the week, whatever the case may be. But I appreciate bouncing this stuff off to you with my friend.
Well, I appreciate you having me back, and I appreciate what you do for the business, Mike. The podcast has been fantastic, and the engagement on an industry level with this has been phenomenal. So cheers to you, cheers to your team, and thanks again.
We'll get to your some of your KW Roseville agents here and do the same.
We got a couple. We got a couple that are coming on that are fantastic. We got a couple that are there that have done a really good job of understanding what was necessary for this to work for them. So yeah, we'd love to have them on.
You got a good cruise. So thank you very much, my friend. You guys, thank you very much for being here. Realtor Connect would not be here if it wasn't for you. I love this, and I care about you guys. We've got obviously the Facebook Realtor Connect. We have YouTube Realtor of the Week and Instagram Realtor of the Week. Invite your friends. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, and have a great week.